Sense does not endorse any of the ads or videos from sources outside of Sense that pop up before, after, or during the Sense video. Please watch out for scams.
Hey everybody, this is Tony Leahy, and I am speaking a session at the Washington School Counselors Association's 2022 conference. So thank you so much for having me. I hope you find this presentation helpful. Here's our agenda for the next hour or so. I'll give some introductions. I'll talk about Student Loan Awareness Year, or SLAY. We'll overview the free Don't Get Debt Slapped tools that are available to you. And I'll give you an overview of the 8-lesson Debt Slapped online course. And then I'll do a little demonstration of that course. Alrighty, so now to introductions. Again, my name's Tony Leahy. I'm the director of Sense, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Sense's mission is to help people improve their financial health, and all of our programs are free of charge. Sense is a Seattle-based nonprofit and was co-founded by retired bankruptcy judge Karen Overstreet and veteran bankruptcy attorneys. So how did we get here? Well, I'll give you a little bit of background because it's relevant. So in 2007 and 2010, Sense received a national grant from various attorney general's offices, state attorney general's offices, to create an educational video around student loans. And we did that in 2007 and a reboot in 2010. And the video was very well received by both educators and students. It was engaging for the students, and the teachers appreciated that it brought up the subject of student loan debt, which was starting to become an issue even back then. After the video, which is still being used today, teachers asked us to create a classroom activity that students could learn to incorporate some of the learning objectives that were presented in the video. So the video was more of a, raise awareness. This is an issue. This is why you should be concerned about it now rather than in 4 years. But the teachers were asking for a curriculum that helped the students retain some of those concepts. So we created a classroom activity where we would go into the classroom, run students through the activity, and the students would basically assemble critical information so they can make an informed decision about their choice after high school. And just for the record, it's not just for people, those students going to college, it's for those, at trade school or even those straight to work. It's to help the students learn how to minimize debt and learn some borrowing fundamentals. We received very positive feedback about the classroom activity, so we created Student Loan Awareness Month with the Attorney General of Washington, Bob Ferguson. The SLAM, Student Loan Awareness Month, we'd picked October every year, and we would go to high schools across the state and do the classroom activity. We got a proclamation a couple of years from Governor Inslee declaring October as Student Loan Awareness Month. So that was really very well received. So we wanted to bump that up even more. So that's when we created SLAY, Student Loan Awareness Year, which I'm going to get to in a second. But let me just review some of the testimonials from SLAM and our activity. I think this is a good representative sample from our students. And I'm really proud that over 90% of the students we reach, they would recommend the activity to a friend. Okay, so we've gotten through introductions. Now let's get into SLAY, Student Loan Awareness Year. So why are we doing this? As many of you know, student loan debt is an epidemic, $1.7 trillion of student loan debt around that right now. That's up from approximately $250 billion in 2003. So it's student loan debt is skyrocketing at a much greater pace than the number of students going to college. 42 million student borrowers are in debt, an average of approximately $39,000 each. And there's an equity issue here as well. 4 years after graduation, 48% of Black students owe an average of 12.5% more than what they borrowed. So we are now expanding our outreach, and we are creating Student Loan Awareness Year. And so here's how you can participate if you're interested. We're doing outreach tours, either in person or virtual, to high school classrooms throughout Washington. So we encourage you to utilize a Sense tool, which you can get at debtslap.org, and I'm going to overview the tools in just a moment. Or you can contact a Sense representative to give a presentation directly to your students or to your teachers, counselors, educators for training. We can do either of those, and all of it is free. So go to the DebtSlap website or email info@senseprogram.org, and I'll go into more detail about what we can do for you. Okay, so now let's overview those tools that I just talked about. I put this slide up as a reminder for me to talk about the approach we take to the students when we're teaching directly to the students. As you can imagine, this is a highly stressful topic. The numbers are astounding, staggering. It can be overwhelming. So we want to acknowledge that with the students, but we also want to empower them that they can do it. And we want them to go after their dream. We just want them to do it wisely. And so we talk about how to do that. So we see ourselves as cheerleaders in a sort for them to get some kind of post-high school education or training. And this program shows them how to do it. Okay, now to those tools. So there is the original Debt Slapped video. That's the one that we made 2007 and 2010. It's good if you only have one class to cover this topic. And I'll show you how to access that in just a second because it relates to the next tool, but you can get it on our website here. And I'll go to our website and show you in just one moment. So the second tool that's available, and again, these are all free. We have a 2-class video series. So essentially, if you only have 2 classes to cover this topic, there's 2 videos, one for each class with some discussion questions. That would be a good tool for you to use. And again, counselors can use these individually with students as well. Access that at the DebtSlap website. And I'm going to just show you that right now. So I am going to get out of the presentation and go to the DebtSlap website. So here's the website, debtslap.org. To get the videos, here at the top, we have our tabs. You go to the video tab. And you see here, original video. You just go to the watch videos, 2-class video series, watch videos. You do have to submit a very brief form, ask like 4 questions and submit, and then we give you permission to enter. Just while we're here, I'll point out this as well. The 8-lesson online curriculum that I'm going to get to in a moment is full of 35 short videos as part of the curriculum. In this video section, we separated those 35 short videos and we put them accessible right here, just in case someone, for whatever reason, just wants to grab the videos. So that's our video access, how you access these tools that I'm talking about. So that's how you access those 2 videos. Third tool, there are Sense-led presentations. So a Sense rep can provide from 1 to 8 lessons directly to your classes. We have a limited amount of in-person, but Zoom, virtual, Teams, what have you, is widely available. So if that interests you, you can go to that DebtSlap website, and there's a contact tab to the right of that video tab that I just showed you, or you can just email directly info@senseprogram.org. And you'll see what lessons we can teach in just a moment when I overview the 8-lesson curriculum. Next tool, we have teacher trainings that we can teach one-on-one, a consultation to a teacher about how to access and utilize our materials in the 8-lesson curriculum. So you can do a combo of us teaching directly, or if you want to teach directly, or you want to do a combo of either one, either delivery method works. And you request that same way as the other things, DebtSlap website contact tab, or email us info@censprogram.org. Alrighty, so then next tool is the 8-lesson online curriculum. And this is a brand new curriculum. We just debuted it in late fall. Each lesson is one class, approximately 50 minutes. You access this at the DebtSlap website there. You'll see, and I'm going to go through the process and show you, so I'll just kind of get through this. So those are the tools. We encourage you to use them for SLAE, Student Loan Awareness Year, available all year, all the time. If you have questions or want to know more, feel free to reach out to me. Now I want to get into an overview of that 8-lesson online curriculum that I just showed you. So DebtSlap Online. The curriculum and videos were funded by Jumpstart Washington, a financial education nonprofit. And we are doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion outreach tour sponsored by the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions this year as well. So thank you so much for our supporters. So the 8-lesson curriculum, what are the lessons? Lesson 1 is lesson 1 and lesson 2 I look at as appetizers of sorts. In lesson 1, students would go through the introduction of the program and watch part 1 of that original DebtSlap video, and then answer some questions about it. Lesson 2 is watch parts 2, 3, and 4 of that original DebtSlap video and answer questions per each section. So the curriculum, the main course, if you will, really starts in lesson 3. That's when we get into career, income, and lifestyle. This is things that we have the students pick a career. They look at the skills and education required for that career, the income of that career. They can kind of see the income growth of that career as well. Then we use that as an opportunity to break that into what's the difference between gross and net, and we have them come up with the monthly net income of their chosen career. Then we have them put that into a budget so they can see how that career does in a hypothetical budget. And then we use that as an opportunity to talk about budgeting and cutting expenses and increasing income if necessary. And how would you do that? And then lifestyle, how income impacts lifestyle. And so, and we do that because, we want the students to pursue their dream, even for those students who are pursuing a job with a moderate income, which is great. We just want them, that's all the more important that they have to be careful about the amount of debt they take on so they can continue to pursue that dream. Lesson 4, vital research. This is a really important lesson where we have the students research the trade school or college they're going to. So we want them to know what type of school it is. Is it a state school? Is it a private school? And is it a for-profit school? And what does that mean? We have them look at what's the graduation rate of that school. How many students that go to that school when they graduate have trouble repaying their student loans? And then, of course, the cost information of that school. We have them gather all that important information. Lesson 5, borrowing fundamentals. So we just had them in lesson 4 get the cost, and they start thinking about how they're going to pay for it. And then for most students, or a lot of students, it's going to involve student loans. So we use this as an opportunity to talk about borrowing fundamentals. And let me back up and say, even those students going straight to work, this is a valuable curriculum because it does teach those borrowing fundamentals, those essentials that they're going to use at some point in their life, with it, whether it's a credit card or an auto loan or a home loan or something like that. These fundamentals will apply. So we just talk about the basics of borrowing. What is a loan? What is debt? What's principal? What's interest? How does it work? So we cover those. We get everyone on the same page in lesson 5. Lesson 6, we drill down on interest and simple interest, compound interest, variable interest, fixed. We go into that, and then we use it as an opportunity to take the number that they got for their college, the cost of it, and we plug it into a calculator. And so we want to show them the cost of that, both on a monthly basis and the total to pay it off and the interest rate. So we go through a scenario and we say, okay, what if you paid that off in 10 years? What will that look like? Then we change the time to pay back and we do 25 years. So what's the difference between paying it back in 10 years versus 25 years? You know, the monthly payment will go down if you stretch out the loan, but the total to pay it off goes up. And then we say, okay, what if you were able to reduce the amount you're borrowing? And then we also have them look at, okay, what if there's a change in interest rate? So with those specific scenarios of their specific number and their chosen college or trade school, they can see the different options they have and the different implications of how they pay it back. Lesson 7, we go through some essential mindsets that a borrower should kind of think through before they make a borrowing choice. So it's a checklist of sorts, but it's a good lesson to teach them things they should consider when they're making their borrowing choice. And again, applies to areas outside of student loans. So lesson 8, we get into loan specifics. And in this lesson, we do hammer on student loans a little bit. And by that, I mean, we get into the details. You know, what's a private loan versus a federal loan? You know, what's the advantages of federal loans over private loans, things like that. But again, the principles, the concepts will apply to any loans. And then we go through a list of things students can do right now to put themselves in the best position to pursue their dream and not get overwhelmed by debt, and ways that they can cut down on the cost of their future higher education. So we cover that in lesson 8. So I'm going to show you the actual curriculum in just a moment, but now I'll just overview some program features. So essentially, how you get access to this: teacher creates a class code. First off, before that, the teacher goes to our website, which I'll show you, debtslap.org, registers. It's about 4 questions, 30-second process. Then we grant access to the teacher, email the teacher the access information. Teacher logs in, creates a class, and then invites their students to it. And I'll show you that process in just a moment. Okay, so there's features for students to get a new password, and the teacher can help with that as well. So both of them can set new passwords. The teacher can do that for the students as well. And essentially, students advance through lesson by lesson and can save work and refer to for later. Teachers can also view progress and see individual student responses. So you can look at your class as a whole and see where each student's at. So if a student's falling behind, you can deal with that. Or if you're concerned about just what a particular student is entering, you can look at their responses as well. There is a pre-assessment form and post-assessment form of most of the lessons, and those are automatically scored. While I'm here, just a quick side trip. We have a companion program for parents. It's called Don't Get Debt Slapped for Parents. And it's sponsored by the Washington 529 plan. And the video is funded by Jumpstart Washington. It's available and it's free. It's available, not the Debt Slap website, but our main website, senseprogram.org. You just go to the programs tab, and then for students, teachers, and parents tab, and click on Debt Slap for Parents. This is how you find this program. And it accomplishes 2 goals. Number 1, it helps parents, and this is aimed at parents of K through 12 students. It helps parents assess their financial situation to see if they're able to save money for their children's future higher education expenses. That's goal number 1. Number 2 is for those families who are unable to do that, it helps them strategically think of ways that they can cut down on the cost of higher education. So we think it's a good program and is inclusive for all families. Okay. So now we're on our Debt Slap demonstration. Just a heads up, I'm going to give you a teacher perspective, accessing and creating a class, and then I'm going to give you a student perspective of what a student sees when he or she goes through it. And I'll cover at least lesson 3 in my demo, maybe lesson 4 as well if there's time. Okay, so for more info, you can email info@senseprogram.org to request a Sense rep to teach a lesson to you or your class, or you can utilize one of the tools at the DebtSlap website. So thank you. Okay, so with that in mind, I am going to get online. One moment. So here we are at the DebtSlap website. And again, I want to show you from a teacher perspective first how to enter the website. So debtslap.org, you go to register right here. One second while it's doing that. Okay, so it takes you to the registration page, and this is the only thing you fill out here: email, name, school, state, grades taught, submit. Our current iteration of the program, you have to fill out that information, submit it, we receive it. On the back end, we create a password for you and we email that to you. That's our current iteration. That is in the process of being changed, and we hope that will be changed by early March, where you just, once you fill this out, it will automatically email you that information, so you will be able to access the course without having to do it on the back end and send it to you. But for right now, you submit this and we give you a password. We attach it to the email that you send it to us from. And then, so you'll get an email from us after you submit this registration form. Okay, so then let me just go to the home page. Okay, so again, register, fill that, submit it, we get it, we create the password for you, email it to you, you get it in your email, then you go back to this debtslap.org login page, and educator or parent, and you enter your information. So I created one for myself. I'm using a fake email, by the way. I'm sure someone might have this email, but I don't. So if you want to email me, I would not email this email. Sorry, filling in my password. Okay. So, in the password information, this is the dashboard, the beginning of the course. Now, if you wanted to just look into the lesson, what a student sees, you can just go launch lesson plan here. That's not to create a course. That's just to give you, if you just want to see what the course is, you can check it out that way. Now, to create a course, you do these instructions. So you go to manage courses. And by the way, when teachers register with us and we create the password and email it to them, I also include a teacher manual that has all this information in it. And that information is also right here, should you need a refresher. And of course, you're welcome to email Sense and we can go through this with you as well. So you're not abandoned. Okay, so you go to manage course, and you can see here, I already created a simple course, Sense sample course, but if you are getting onto this program the first time, nothing will be here. And so you would go to add course, and you would do the course, whatever system makes sense to you. Of course, you'd want to be aware of, class period, time of year, just so later on you can distinguish between fall, winter, spring courses of this academic year versus a future academic year. So name it whatever system makes sense to you and submit, and then that will create the course. This is, for me, I would do the Sense sample course, type it in there and I would submit, but I'm going to cancel because I've already done that. And this is what it would create. So you have this right here. And now I'm going to talk about how do you invite your students to this course. So you send invite, and you essentially you can type or you can paste your student emails in here. The only thing is they need to have a comma separated there needs to be a comma separating the email addresses. So just my email addresses right here. So you can see there's a comma, that might be a semicolon. We'd want a comma separating each email address. And so you would type your student addresses there and hit send, and the invitation would go to them. I already done this, so I'm not going to do it. I'll cancel. And so that is how you create a course for them. Manage students. These are you know, the test students that I had. So they're not real students, but you would go there and you can you know, see who's entered the course here. You can help change their password. And I'm going to cancel this. Back to dashboard. Manage courses. If you select a course, so it's not ready yet, but when you do this, you'll be able to have some reporting on the course of, you know, kind of what the average pre-assessment score, average post-assessment. And then this is where we talked about where you can see where each student is. So in their Emily test here, she's only got to lesson 1, I got to lesson 10. So you will have all your students here and you can see how far they've advanced and their scores. And that's automatic. Okay, so that's the teacher perspective. Now I want to give you the student perspective. So give me 1 second. I'm going to log out of here. So now I'm going to walk you through the student perspective and a demonstration of the program. So remember when I went in there and I created the course, I typed the student's name separated by a comma and I hit send. This is what the email, this is the email that the students will get. So it has a link and the course code. And so to register, a student will click on the register link in the email. It has the registration code at the top, and they'll enter their name, email, and hopefully their school email, a password, and confirm the password and click on register. Once they do that, they will enter the course. And they will use that information they created, the email and password, to enter the course in the future if needed. And so I'll show you how to do that as well, or you know, how they would do that from their perspective. So we'll get out of this. Okay, so now we were at Get Slapped again. And this is, you know, a student would log in from that prior page I told you. It would go directly here, but if they need to log in on a separate day, this is the way they do it, getslapped.org. Click on login. Click on student. I created a student account for myself. Okay, so this is the student dashboard when a student logs in. So you can see here, there is the 10 lessons. I said 8 lessons. We do have a supplemental lesson number 9 and a conclusion. But okay, so I just want to, I'll quickly, just because it's the beginning, go through lessons 1 and 2, and then I'll spend a little bit more time. We have about half hour left. We'll spend a little more time in lessons 3 and maybe lessons 4. But remember, lessons 1 and 2 are almost like appetizers of the main course. So here's the beginning of the lesson, and each lesson essentially follows this template. You know, in kind of the brown, we have the learning outcomes and the time required for the lesson. So after this lesson, you'll see how higher education helps you. Do you have a thinking trap? Learn about borrowing money and loans. And so this is our introduction, and watch part 1 of the video. We have key terms sprinkled throughout the entire lesson. And these terms are some of them will be, there'll be exit tickets that quiz and when we start getting into the main course of lessons 3 and beyond. So this is the introduction to the program. We talk about, why they should be concerned about this right now, not after they graduate or after they complete their trade school. I know I won't go this quick when we get to lesson 3, but I just wanted to kind of give you a taste of what lessons 1 or 2 are. So we have situations we want them to avoid, common thinking traps and how to challenge those thinking traps, why investing in themselves is wise, and also because that's true on average doesn't mean it's going to be true in their case. That's all the more important to have a plan and be careful. And then here's an exit ticket in green, and they just advance question by question. So that is lesson 1. Now let's do a quick lesson 2 before I spend a little more time in lesson 3. And again, these are just the appetizers, lessons 1 and 2. So lesson 2 is watch parts 2, 3, and 4. So here we watch part 2 of the video, answer the questions pertaining to part 2 of the video, do the same with part 3 of the video, answer the questions that pertain to that, and the same with part 4. And that is lesson 2, and then there's some exit ticket questions. And so here is we're beginning our main course, lesson 3, career, income, and lifestyle. Okay, so after this lesson, you will be able to, and this is again, which I talked about a little bit earlier, we're gonna have the students pick a job and learn some things about that job. So here we have now from lessons 3 onward, it pretty much follows this template of some pre-assessment questions at the beginning, some post-assessment questions at the end of the lesson. And then there are questions, essentially a student, the questions are in green, a student should just go question to question throughout the lesson. And sometimes we have them go to a separate website to get the answers to the questions. They come back to our lessons, fill in the answer, and move on. So this is one lesson where we do have them go to a different website to get that information. And the website is mynextmove.org. And so we have screenshots of what that website looks like and where on that website they need to go to do their next move. So we have some different options of how they can search for their career on mynextmove.org. So again, the students are just going from green box to green box, question to question, scrolling down, answering that, getting the information they need to fill that in, and continuing on. So here we have them go to the My Next Move website, and they enter their career, and they learn things about that, whatever choice they make. What kind of education is required? So we have that as a question, what education level is needed? And then we have a running example here. We have Maria who wants to be a web developer. So throughout the whole 8-lesson course, we follow Maria's story, so the students can kind of have a spine to make sure they're on the right track in terms of where they're looking and what they're filling in, just so they can have an example to go off of. So next thing we have them look at is income of the job. So we have them pick this number at the left, at the bottom of the hill, if you will, and because we think that will be closer to their starting salary. But it's a good opportunity to point out, incomes can grow, and that's one thing to be aware of when they're looking for a career. Again, key terms sprinkled throughout the lesson, and then this is where the student would answer what the annual gross salary is. Again, they would go to My Next Move, look for this icon on the page after they've entered in the job they want to do, and they grab it and put it in here. Okay, so now they have their annual gross salary. Next question, we want them to go from annual gross salary to annual net income. I should have pointed this out earlier, but you'll notice these boxes, we have these blue boxes sprinkled throughout the courses, the program. So we've created about 35 short videos that we've sprinkled in throughout the entire 8-lesson curriculum. And these videos help the students learn and retain key learning objectives. So I play it now, but I don't think it's going to work on with Zoom screen sharing. Okay, key terms. And now we want them, we show them how to make the calculation of taking the annual gross income to annual net. So basically, we just do a rough calculation of multiplying their annual gross income by 0.75. That automatically removes 25%. And so we have them do that. We have them enter that number here. This one is pre-filled out by me. Obviously, when students go through this the first time, that would be blank. And we have our running example here with Maria, the web developer. And her answer would be 30,562. So now we have annual net income. So we've gone from gross annual net income to net annual, sorry, we went from gross annual income to net annual income. Now we're going to do monthly net income. And essentially divide it by 12. And the students put their number in number 11. So again, they're going from green box to green box, obtaining the information they need, filling it out. So now this section, now we move into budgeting. They have their monthly net income, and we talk about budgeting key terms: budget, budget surplus, balanced budget, what's a budget deficit, and why. And we get to our sample budget. So we've filled out housing or budget categories with monthly expense amounts per each category, and we've totaled that up. And so the next calculation we ask the students to make is we want them to subtract the budget total, 2,415, from their monthly net income. And what does that result? So Maria, when she does this calculation, 2,546, minus 2,415, she has 131 left over. That's a surplus. And of course, the students might have a negative number. So 3 outcomes when you budget: 0, positive or negative number, and what do we do per each outcome? So let's say they have a deficit or even a balanced budget, and they want more of a margin between their expenses and income. How do we cut down? So we have them, next questions 13 and 14, what is one monthly expense you can reduce? How much do you need to reduce it by? So I can go back up to the budget here, look and see, just pick a category that you'd reduce and how much would you reduce it by? And they put those answers here and here. Little review of the budgeting process. Then we have this lifestyle section, and we say, one factor to look at your career choice is through a financial perspective, a financial lens, just to make sure it has enough money to cover your expenses. And just as a disclaimer, we say that's one perspective, the financial perspective, but it's not the only one. And we want students to have a job that's fulfilling, that does well in the world, all those things. And we tell them, we round it out with those perspectives as well. But for the purpose of this, we want to make sure that their chosen career is going to provide for them. So we have them look at their job through that lens. And then we talk about lifestyle, how there's, we have a low, middle, and high lifestyle choices, or expenses, I should say. And they can kind of see how their budget matches up. And we remind them that, we had them choose the starting salary for their career, knowing that over their career, their income will grow. So it's not going to, unless they picked a job that doesn't have an increasing income, their job will grow as they advance in their career. Okay, some side tips about gig economy and other considerations. Videos sprinkled throughout, and lesson 3, review all those key terms that we've sprinkled throughout the lesson. We have just a quick review here, and then the lesson ticket, exit ticket, I should say, or essentially the post-assessment. This mirrors the questions at the very beginning of the lesson, and they're automatically scored, and that ends lesson 3. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left. I'll show you lesson 4, vital research. And maybe it's maybe a quick lesson 5, but lesson 4, vital research. This is the lesson where they're going to learn vital things about their school, college or trade school. The learning objectives kind of follows the same template. The learning objectives at the top, and pre-assessment questionnaire. These questions are going to be mirrored at the end of the lesson. Videos sprinkled throughout, short videos. Okay, so first thing we want them to do is find their school on College Navigator. This is one of those instances where we have them go to a outside website to assemble the information to fill out our program. So this is the website they'll go to. We have a screenshot of it. Type name of school right here. It accepts trade schools as well. So we would have them type that. And we give screenshots of where exactly to do it. So our example, Central Washington University, Maria. And this is what, so if you type it into that area, this is what would pop up. And we have Maria. We're still following Maria through our lessons. And the first thing we point out, what school will you be attending? So that's from our example with Central Washington, that would be typed here, but whatever the student chose would be typed here. And then we have a little video about finding the school type. And what does school type mean? There are 3 types: state/public, private nonprofit, and the third is for-profit. And what does that mean? So, and where is that on the website? See where it says type? Central Washington University is a 4-year public. So we have them write the type of their school here. And we point out, generally 4-year public are going to be the least expensive, at least from a full price perspective. And we, of course, mentioned sometimes private schools can offer more grants and scholarships to bring their costs down from a state school, sometimes. And then we mentioned for-profit schools are generally the most expensive, and generally students will the highest percentage of students who can't pay back the student loans are from for-profit schools. Okay, then same website, the College Navigator, we have them look at accreditation. So we talk about what that is and why it's important, and where they can look to see if the school they're considering is accredited. So they would expand that right there, and it would mention, for the Central here, it says Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. We have a Maria example, and we have them answer questions about that. Is the school accredited? What is the name of the accrediting institution? Moving on, so we're finding out little pieces about the school as we advance. So here we have graduation rate, and on that College Navigator site, there's retention and graduation rate. We have them focus on graduation rate, and this is what it looks like on the website for Central Washington University, 58% graduation rate. So we have them write that, number 13. Then, because the percentage might not mean anything to a student, we give them ways to gauge that. So what does that mean if you have a 58%? 80 and above is the highest, that's the best. 50 to 79 is average. 49% or below is low. So Central 58% would be average, so that student would write that here. But again, whatever school they chose might have a different percentage. Okay, then we get into the next piece of information they're going to discover about their school, cohort default rate. And we have a video about that because it's kind of clunky, those words, and it's basically the percent of students that can't pay back their student loans when they graduate. So there is a category for that on the Navigator website. They click on that, and it lists the default rate. And for Central, it's 6.9%. Well, is that good, bad, what? So we have them type the rate in here, and then we have our same classification system where they can see if it's low, average, or high. In this case, low is the best. 6% or under is low. 7 to 12 is average, 13% is the worst. So default rate, Central is 6.9, so it would be average. Well, I'll give it the best. It's under 7%. So we'll put them in low right here. Now we get into the cost. And this is where the numbers are going to be big. And again, so we take this, as a time to acknowledge that with the students and say, these numbers are big and scary, but there's steps they can take. So tuition, you look for the most recent academic year, and we point out the difference between in-state and out-of-state, how that matters for state schools, and how if they're a resident of Washington and they're going to a Washington state school, they're going to get this less expensive rate. We also point out living arrangement and how, compare the on-campus rate versus off-campus with family. And of course, some schools require you to live on campus for a specified amount of time, but we just point that out for those that are exploring ways to cut down costs. Maria's CWU example. This is her in-state tuition for the academic year. And we have the students write that there. And again, educational videos talking about tuition and in-state and out-of-state. So we've got the tuition, but that's just part of the piece. That's just for classes. So what's going to be the cost to go to that? And that's also on College Navigator. It's in this total expenses part right here. You go to the most recent academic year and write whatever category applies: on campus, off campus with family. Again, pointing out the key difference between off campus with family and on campus. There's a big cost difference there. So we had them write the full sticker, and we use this, we define what full sticker means. That's the cost without any, scholarships or grants, so that non-discounted cost. We tell them, so that was 1 year. What we've done so far, what is 1 year for the full sticker? Well, what is it going to cost to get your degree? So if it's a 4-year program, multiply the 1 year times 4, of course. If it's a 1 or 2 year, do the same, multiply by 1 or 2. So now we have the full cost to get your degree, the full sticker. We say there's good news. Often people don't have to pay the full sticker. So there's something called the average net price, which is the average price a student at that college or trade school or university pays after grants and scholarships, which don't have to be paid back. So we define all those things. We have the videos that help them learn what that means. And we have them look at, from the College Navigator site, what the net price is of that college. Again, the cost, the discounted price, essentially. So that's on the Navigator website for Central, most recent academic year, 16,441. So that's Maria's example, and we would have the students write their example in number 20. So again, the students are just advancing down the lesson, green box to green box, go into the website to get the information, plugging it in. So now we have average net price for 1 year, but let's take that and what's it going to be to get their degree? So they would take the average net price and multiply it by 4 if they're going to a 4-year, or 1 or 2 if they're going to a 1 or 2-year program. So now the students have the cost, the full sticker for the cost of their education and the average net price. And then we have them, we kind of go through a brief paying for college module here. What are the ways you can pay for college? Some tips about paying for higher education, a video that goes over it as well. And then we have a review of the key terms that we sprinkled throughout. And then the exit ticket, which again mirrors the pre-assessment at the very beginning of this lesson. And this is automatically scored. if there's extra time, or if the student is interested, we have them go through the navigator for a different school choice. They can go through that again, picking a different school. And that is lesson 4. For about 7 minutes, I will just briefly show you lesson 5 when we start getting into borrowing fundamentals. And this is, so we have our number, and we have the students pick a number. It might be your average net for the 4 years of education. It might be the full sticker. We give them a disclaimer that, you know, one, if they pick full sticker, you know, they might not have to pay that. We also give the disclaimer, if they pick the average net, you know, they're not guaranteed the average net price either. So, but we just say, you're just picking something hypothetically right now, just to get an idea of how this works. And the concepts you'll learn will remain true, even if the numbers change. So lesson 5, borrowing fundamentals. This is when we kind of introduce the students to borrowing literacy, if you will. So again, pre-assessment at the very beginning, educational videos sprinkled throughout. We get into why do people borrow money, key terms, loan, debt, what are major steps in the borrowing process. Financial institutions, where you can borrow. What if you have trouble paying back the loan? And then we get into speak the language of borrowing. What's principal, what's interest, what are examples, interest rate, monthly payments, monthly payment due dates, loan term, total to pay off the loan, and loan balance. Okay, so now we have them get into some actual calculations so they can see what that loan's going to cost them. So what's the total net price to get your degree? I didn't fill it out in the prior lesson, but when lesson 4, question 21, that would automatically fill in right here, what they entered into that. So finding the standard 10-year repayment plan costs. We'd have them click on a calculator at this link, scroll down until they see these fields. So we give them a screenshot of what that looks like, and we'd have them fill in this information. And when they fill in the information, they would get monthly loan payment for 10-year plan, cumulative payments, the total to pay off the entire loan, and the total interest paid for the 10-year loan. So let's see, sorry, I'm going to see if the Maria example is here. So we have Maria's total. Yeah, so we have, here's Maria's example. So to pay off the $65,000 loan in 10 years, the monthly loan payment would be $657. The total to pay off the loan, over $78,000, and the total interest paid, $13,000. Now, we say the 10-year is just, there are several different student loan repayments, and the 10-year plan is just one option. There's income-based, so there's stretching it out over more than 10 years. So it doesn't have to be 10 years. But we show this just as an example to see why if one is able to afford it, why one would consider 10 years. Because then we do the same exact thing with a 25-year plan. So instead of, everything stays the same except for the time to pay back. The amount borrowed, the interest rate, we only change the amount to pay back. And so same calculator. So here's Maria's example. And we have her monthly payment goes down to $337, but her total to pay it off goes over $100,000 and over $35,000 in interest. So we can have them compare their 10-year numbers versus their 25-year numbers and see what the differences are. So that's what we have, them do here. And for Maria's, Same amount borrowed, the monthly payment with the 25-year goes down to closer to 300 from 650-ish. The total to pay off goes from 78,000 in the 10-year to over 101,000 in the 25, and total interest paid in the 10-year is around 13,000. The 25-year goes over 35,000. So we have them compare those numbers just so they can see that, yes, the monthly payment goes down, but the total to pay off the loan increases significantly. So we, again, use this as a lesson for no matter what borrowing choice you make, credit card, auto loan, mortgage, the longer you take to pay something off, the more it's going to cost you. And we go through our borrowing fundamentals so they can learn that. Then we have them reduce the amount they're borrowing. And we have them go through the same situation of, okay, what if they borrowed less? That's the only thing that changes is the amount borrowed. The time to pay it back is similar to the prior example, and we have them compare. So we move it back to 10-year repayment plan. So we want to compare this scenario where we lowered the amount they borrowed with the first example of the 10-year repayment, because this is also 10 years. So the only thing we changed was the amount they borrowed. And so in this case, the monthly payment and the total to pay off will go down because they borrowed less. And so we use that to show it's important to reduce your borrowing when you can. It saves money. And again, we remind them that, you know, we've just did the 10-year and 25-year plans. There's a variety of other multiple options that they have to choose from. So those aren't the only two options. There's income-based repayment, which has a lower payment, monthly payment. But of course, the longer you take to pay it off, the more it's going to cost you. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing there. And I'm just going to leave you with my information. Thank you so much for checking out this course. I hope this was helpful. I'm here if you have any further questions. I can be reached at Tony, T-O-N-Y, at senseprogram.org. Sense is spelled like pennies or change, C-E-N-T-S, and the word program is one word. So once again, Tony at senseprogram.org. If you want to utilize this free service or other tools, please feel free to do so. If you want training, further information, a consultation, a Sense representative to come to your school or classroom, please contact me. Again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about these programs. All right, hope you have a good conference.